What I think you'll find interesting is that even in decades of this firearms production, the internal workings, the actual cycle of operation, hasn't changed. Here, we'll have a vintage military training video that I think you'll find very instructional and also interesting.
The rifleman's effectiveness depends to a large degree upon his rifle. It must be as lightweight and rugged as possible. It must be capable of automatic and semi-automatic fire, and its ammunition must provide maximum firepower with the minimum of weight to enable the rifleman to carry as many loaded magazines as possible and practical. For use, mobility is required and ammunition resupply is difficult. A new rifle has been issued to special forces, airborne and air mobile troops of the Army, and to other military forces of the United States. This new rifle is designated the XM-16E1. The XM-16E1 is a 5.56 millimeter or caliber .223 shoulder weapon. It is magazine-fed, gas-operated, and air-cooled. The magazine capacity is 20 rounds.
Let's look at the internal fire control system in this AR-15 cutaway provided by Colt Defense. If you'll notice, this is the hammer. Right here is the disconnector ledge, and here is the disconnector with the disconnector hook. This is the upper part of the trigger, and on the face or front of the trigger is the actual sear. You'll notice that the sear is up in the sear notch in the hammer. Here I have the hammer spring. Of course, the legs of the hammer are over the trigger pin, and here I have the actual trigger spring. Now let's do an actual functioning of the fire control system. As I take the safety off, if you look, you will actually see the hammer starting to cock back as I pull the trigger. It drops and fires. If I take the charging handle and manually cycle it, you'll see that the hammer is cocked to the rear and is held by the disconnector until I slowly release the trigger, allowing the hammer to come off the disconnector and drop onto the sear nose. Again, as we pull the trigger, you'll see that the hammer cams down slightly, drops and fires. Then when I cycle the action, you'll see that it's held to the rear by the disconnector, and as I slowly release the trigger, you'll see that it pops up into place onto the sear nose. When the weapon fires, the round passes down the barrel. As the back of the bullet passes a hole in the barrel right at the rear of the front sight, some of the gas is starting to get tapped off and get pushed back through the gas tube. This is the gas buildup time through the barrel. Once it gets past the port, this is basically the dwell time. As the round continues passing down the barrel, gas is getting fed off and being pushed back through the gas tube into the actual gas key and into the well of the bolt carrier. You need to have the actual operating parts in motion before the bullet exits the bore, or the pressures are going to drop. At that point, the parts need to be in motion. As the bullet exits, gas pressure drops, and you should already be at the other stages of the cycle of operation. What we're talking about then is the actual unlocking, extraction, and ejection process. So, after we fired, the bullet goes down the bore, gas gets tapped off, goes into a well, it starts to push against the bolt carrier, not the bolt. The bolt starts to move rearward, and then an extraction and ejection process starts. So, if we load it from this point, you can actually see the round in the chamber area here. And when you're going through the extraction ejection process, you can see the round starting to come out after the bolt is turned and unlocked. Ejecting the round. The receiver extension has the buffer and the action spring. The action spring gets compressed and it gets set up to basically start the next cycle of operation. Obviously, the charging handle does not move during this. I'm doing it manually. But you can see that that feeds another round in. The bolt goes forward after cocking the hammer and setting it up.